All right, so the quantum equation E equal mc square. Most of you here are familiar with Albert Einstein, who taught us the law of relativity. E is light, m is mass, and c is velocity or speed. And this equation clearly states that light and matter are exactly the same things. And our physical reality is but light that is vibrating at a lower speed. So this means that you are light beings, and that everything around you at this moment, including the planet itself, comes from the light and is profoundly shaped by light. So I'd like you to take a moment and ponder the beauty of this equation for a moment. Really softly breathe in this equation and ponder what it means to you at this moment. See, when the light hits the cornea in the eye, science has shown us that it slows down. And through this light, we are being recreated with new life every single day. See, Albert Einstein taught us that light creates reality. Now, how? It's becoming very clear that light is programming all of the neurotransmitter and hormones in our bodies that enable us to make a model of ourselves in space and time. See, our cells, our tissues, our glands, our hormones, neurotransmitters, and every system in our body are being continuously regenerated by the quality of the light that we expose ourselves to. And this is not philosophy. This is literally quantum physics and quantum biology. And paying attention to this and learning how to implement it in your practice will help you shine like a star in the field of health and wellness. See, I have so many conversations with practitioners today, and I realize that so many are very focused on food. And while food is extremely important and it's the fuel for our body, we gotta remember that the basis of the whole food chain is light through photosynthesis. So understanding light as the nucleus of life and as the shaper of our biology, and learning how to integrate this knowledge into practical steps in your practice is literally one of the cutting edge sciences right now in the field of health and wellness. And today, it's my hope that we scratch the surface together of what I call the new paradigm in the field of health and wellness. So the paradigm shift is happening from focusing on biochemistry and molecules only to quantum biology, where we focus on electrons, protons, and look at the body as an electromagnetic intelligence that is floating in an electric universe. In the old paradigm, we perceive light as simply something superficial that makes vision possible, and it has no place in its ability to affect health. Whereas in the new paradigm of quantum biology, light is much more powerful, profound, and influential than once thought to be. The old paradigm's focus is on the nucleus genome, as you may know, as the commander of the cell. And in this model, we can find that the patient could find himself a victim of their own genes. Now, in the new paradigm, we're rather focusing on the mitochondrial genome and on epigenetics. And why is that? Because it turns out that mitochondria plays an absolutely essential role in mediating communication, in sensing what is going on in the environment, and mediating communication between the environment and the cell. And light is one of the most important information that is continuously being transmitted into the cell. So even though it's the nucleus that is carrying our DNA, it's actually the mitochondria that is that is the mediator of the information, instructing our DNA and letting it know what to do, and therefore changing the proteins that are coded by the DNA to influence our organs, our tissues, our cells, without changing the DNA itself. And this literally positions light and mitochondrial health at the pinnacle of overcoming genetics and reversing disease by simply mastering our environment. So I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that light is a double-edged sword. It can either heal us or it could create dis-ease and unrest. And today, more than ever before in our history, people are spending much of their time indoors under artificial lighting, exposed to digital devices and LED bulbs day and night. And even as holistic health professionals and doctors and coaches, we are being drawn into a similar pattern of artificial light exposure as we are working on growing our businesses and becoming successful. So as much as we are exposing ourselves to this artificial light, so are our clients as well. Dr. Jack Ruth, a neurosurgeon from the States, he said something that really stuck with me when I first was learning about quantum biology. And he said the right type of light at the right time of the day can create wonders and healing. However, the wrong type of light at the wrong time of the day can create disease and illness. And this degenerative light is prohibiting you from getting a restful night's sleep. So oftentimes you lack the energy, alertness, and focus during the day. And this literally makes it much more strenuous and hard to grow your business, connect with your clients, and solve problems. And even worse, this degenerative light is silently sabotaging the results that you're trying to achieve with your clients. So the goal is really for us and for our clients to maximize healthy light while eliminating toxic light. And as simple as these two steps may seem, they have fundamentally changed my life and the life of thousands that I've been working with. So I'm going to share a little story about how I got into this. As a kid, I was diagnosed with ADHD and I suffered from headaches, agitation, and inability to focus. And growing up, I turned into a night owl. And I often stayed up very late, feeling super wired and stimulated, only to lack the energy, focus, and determination the following day. And eventually, day after day, this led me to deep depression, chronic fatigue, and disorientation. And to be honest, it was really sabotaging my professional life as an engineer and my aspirations and my goals, and even my relationship to my loved ones. So as you can imagine, I was desperately wanting to feel better. And as I kept going from one doctor to another, I honestly felt tired and exhausted, and I was feeling a bit overwhelmed with all the different health opinions about what I should be doing. So conventional medicine told me to take prescription drugs, and thankfully I had the awareness not to do so. And then I turned over into functional medicine and different other areas in medicine, and I started experimenting with so many different diets, herbal formulas, supplements. I tried also so many different therapies, and I was experimenting with physical exercise technique and meditation techniques. And while all of these really positively influenced my life in so many different ways and built a fundamental, strong foundation in my life, I was unfortunately still stuck with the same cycle of feeling wired at night and depressed and exhausted when I wake up the following day. So miraculously, a specific event changed all of that. I spent 6 weeks on a rural farm in Quebec camping. And on this farm, I was exposed only to natural light during the day and fire and candlelight during the evening. Now, within a matter of 3 days, something miraculous happened. I started winding down in the evening, feeling mellow and relaxed, sleeping shortly after the sunset, to then wake up before the sunrise for the first time in my life, feeling refreshed, full of energy, and focused. I lived my days on the farm, farming outdoors, dancing, cooking, hiking, swimming in lakes, and studying. And to be honest, I was able to achieve in a 24-hour period more than I would in a month. I mean, how did that magic happen, right? I didn't change my diet, I didn't take supplements, and I was still exercising and meditating in the same way I was doing before. So I was in complete awe, and I really wanted to understand what was happening. Here's the bad news. When I moved back from the farm to the city, this amazing feeling that I was feeling on the farm didn't last any longer. At the time, I was still living in Toronto. And the moment I stepped back in Toronto, and within a few weeks, I fell back into my old terrible routine of staying up very late and waking up feeling depressed and chronically fatigued. And at this point, I started contemplating whether it was my light environment that was causing all of this. And this led me to a 7-year journey where I was studying circadian biology, quantum biology, and light. And I started consulting the world's leading experts, doctors, and scientists in this field. And I learned some really mind-blowing information. And today I want to share with you some of the information that changed my life. I started to learn about mitochondria, the power engine in our bodies that burn all the food that we eat and produce all of our energy in the form of ATP, as well as a special type of water called deuterium depleted water that is used by the cells and the organs for all of our metabolic functions. Now, in a nutshell, the better these mitochondria are working, the more ATP and deuterium depleted water they produce, and the more energy we have to carry out optimal daily function from thinking, digesting, creating, even healing and sleeping require energy. And it has recently come to light that these engines not only produce energy and water, but they also play an absolutely essential role in sensing what is going on in the environment and mediating communication between the environment and the cell. And as I mentioned, one of the most important information across our evolution has been light being transmitted to the cell. This is because for the past 1.5 billion years, these mitochondria evolved around the ocean, and they evolved to get those light waves from sunlight, which increase in intensity and in color temperature from sunrise to solar noon, just like a crescendo of a musical scale, and then starts to decrease and gradually descending down in the blue and green light frequencies to transition into the darkness of the night. Now, this light is what enabled you to evolve over the past 1.5 billion years, literally from a single-celled organism called bacteria, to become this super powerful sentient being that is able to think, perceive, imagine, feel, and create all day, every day for decades. So I always refer to light as the spark that ignites our mitochondria. We all know here that mitochondria breaks down this food that we eat to produce our energy and water. And this has led the majority of people to focus on food and diet alone. And while food and diet are very important, we shall ask ourselves the question, what is food? So food is literally light energy that is stored in matter through the process that we call photosynthesis. So from a quantum biology perspective, all of the carbs, proteins, and fats that we eat are broken down into light subatomic particles that are called electrons with a negative charge and a proton with a positive charge. And those light particles are then used by the mitochondria to generate energy and water. So in quantum biology, there's a term called the redox potential. Now, what is the redox? It's the mitochondria's ability to collect and separate electrons and protons by converting glucose, oxygen, and oxygen into ATP, CO2, and deuterium depleted water. Okay, and in short, when we have a high redox potential, our body is literally able to break down any type of food that we eat effortlessly because the engine is working strong. And the higher our redox potential, the more resilient we are to stressors in our environment and the more vital and vigorous we feel. So here's one thing that is very important. When the mitochondrial electron transport chain separates the negative and the positive charge across the inner mitochondrial membrane, those electrons are then used by the respiratory proteins in the mitochondria. Those respiratory proteins, as you may know, they line up together and they start oscillating, pushing those electrons to create an electric field in the mitochondria and generate energy. Now, I want you to visualize this process, okay? And think of these respiratory proteins as quantum soldiers. And I want you to visualize those quantum soldiers lining up together and tossing these fireballs between each other to make ATP. Now, here's the thing. The stronger these quantum soldiers are, or the respiratory proteins, the more energy we have. And here's how light plays a major role in this. It turns out that 2/3 of the electron supply used by the respiratory proteins in the mitochondria come from the light, basically come from the electromagnetic field of the earth and from sunlight directly. And 1/3 come from the food that we eat and we break down into electrons and protons. But not only this, the light waves coming from sunlight, it turned out that they cause the water in our cells to shrink. We all know of 3 stages of water: gas, solid, and liquid. But it turns out, according to Dr. Gerald Pollard, that there's something called the 4th phase of water, or easy water. And this water is actually being structured by sunlight frequencies. And when the light shine on this water in our cell, the water shrinks. Now, what does that mean? When the water shrinks, it causes those quantum soldiers, or the respiratory proteins in the mitochondria, to come closer together. Now, again, what does that mean? In quantum physics, anytime we have an energy transfer of moving electrons, the shorter the distance the electrons need to travel, the higher the energy yield is. So literally, when those quantum soldiers come closer together, it increases the energy yield in our mitochondria. So healthy light literally supercharges our redox potential. In contrast, artificial light really depletes our redox potential. The man-made artificial light that we expose ourselves to is very high in the blue light frequencies and very low in the orange, yellow, and red and infrared. Now, here's the thing. Blue light doesn't come in isolation when we expose ourselves to it in nature. And artificial man blue light is in isolation from the other colors. And this has been shown to spread the quantum soldiers apart. Those respiratory proteins spread apart. So imagine this. When we are chronically exposing ourselves to blue light from artificial light sources day and night, those quantum soldiers in our mitochondria start to move apart. And this makes it much harder for these guys to be able to toss the electrons in between each other and generate the electric field to generate energy. And when we have less energy available in our system, we have less energy to heal and to carry out optimal daily functions like thinking, creating, digesting, and healing. So most of us start to feel foggy-headed, fatigued, and irritable. But not only this, our mitochondria also won't have enough energy to repair themselves at night. And this causes us to start to sleep terribly and waking up feeling groggy and unmotivated. And this also explains why I used to wake up every morning feeling completely drained and tired. My mitochondria was getting depleted with the wrong frequencies of light. So other than producing energy, mitochondria also play an absolutely essential role in two very important processes within every cell. Autophagy, which means cellular cleaning, just like a dishwasher would clean dishes, and apoptosis, which means cellular replacement and cellular death, just like you would replace the oil for your car's engine. Now, here's the important thing. Every night when we sleep, we are meant to clean ourselves on a cellular level. We are meant to heal and rejuvenate. And this can only happen at night after our eyes receiving the right signal that's getting dark outside. In other words, in the absence of blue and green light frequencies. And this process is optimally activated when our eyes witness the slowly fading light around sunset and then transition into the darkness of the night. Now, here's the major problem. 95% of the people in our modern world are not getting this darkness after the sunset. They're not getting the signal through their eyes that's getting dark outside. And they are continuously exposing themselves to the second sun from indoor light bulbs, screens, and digital devices. And this is literally destroying autophagy and apoptosis. And as you may know, when we cannot undergo autophagy and apoptosis, problems start occurring. We start running into inflammation and all kinds of different diseases. And even when people sleep for 8 hours and they wake up and they actually think that they are sleeping well on a conscious level, what's actually happening on a subconscious quantum level, that their cells are waking up every morning feeling extremely burnt out. And eventually, day after day, the mitochondria start to lose efficiency. And this leads to aging, inflammation, and all kinds of neurodegenerative diseases. See, according to Dr. Wallace, from the Douglas Wallace from the University of Washington, who won a Nobel Prize in, not a Nobel Prize, a prize in medicine in 2017, 90% of our modern chronic diseases, such as anxiety, depression, inflammation, loss of productivity, and sleep problems, are actually originating from the mitochondria losing their efficiency. So the source of those modern chronic issues is turned out to be in the mitochondrial genome and not necessarily in the nucleus genome as we originally thought. And this literally also explains why I was still struggling with my health even after optimizing my diet, exercise, and meditation. And I wasn't actually giving my body with enough darkness at night to run the dishwasher for cellular cleaning. And as you may imagine, things got stinky over time. So here's Dr. Albert Szent-Györgyi, a biochemist who won the Nobel Prize in 1937 with the discovery that many enzymes and hormones that are involved in metabolism and digestion of food are activated by the sun's frequency. So much so that they become 500% more effective. So can you imagine what 500% means? 5 times more efficient at digesting and absorbing food. I mean, what would you do if you have 5 times the amount of the energy that you currently have? How would you feel? What would you create with that energy? How would your clients feel when they start absorbing their food and supplements 5 times more efficiently? See, the blood that is pumped by the heart is now known to circulate through our eyes every 2 hours. Isn't that cool? But here's something that is even more cool. When the light enters our eyes, it stimulates the nutrients in our blood, allowing them to actually be absorbed by the cells. So if healthy light entering our eyes make us 5 times more efficient, what is the implication of exposing our eyes to human man-made deficient light that is far different from sunlight all day long? Can you now start to see how healthy light supercharges you and junk artificial light will lead to depletion? So to summarize this section, I'd like to leave you with an analogy. Just like a Ferrari's engine requires fuel, oxygen, and a spark to create internal combustion and burn that food into energy, the engine in our body, mitochondria, also requires fuel in the form of food, oxygen in the form of breathing, and a spark in the form of light to ignite the process of metabolism. Okay, and if the ignition system of the car is not functioning properly, fuel alone will not be able to run that car. And similarly for us as humans, vitamins, foods, and supplements are extremely important. They're the fuel for our body, but will not be able to solve a problem that would be caused by a lack of the appropriate wavelength of light and the chronic exposure to the wrong frequencies of light. So I want to ask you if you can imagine the phenomenal impact that light will have on your patient's health right now. I wonder if you can see how maximizing healthy light while eliminating junk artificial light will amplify any health protocol that your patients are currently implementing. I believe that all of us here want to overcome mediocrity and to achieve the optimal. So let's first maybe define the term optimal health, because I realize that it could mean different things to different people. At least to me, optimal health is a state in which we have access to an abundance of energy, enabling us to build successful businesses, offer a great service and a great value to our community and to our clients, and still have plenty of energy and plenty of time for self-development, hobbies, families, and loved ones. So I'd like you to type yes in the comments if you and your clients would love to achieve an optimal state of health. So I'm going to share with you 6 very simple steps on the journey to optimal health. Number 1, every morning going outdoors facing east and watching the sunrise. Whether it's cloudy or not cloudy, it doesn't matter. All we need to do is spend more time outdoors if it is cloudy. Number 2, sunbathing amply but safely. And I want to emphasize the word safely because I know that so many of us are not yet prepared to absorb the frequencies of light without burning because of our alienation from sunlight and because of our lifestyle. And one of the courses that I'm designing for the future is called the electromagnetic diet. I actually teach people about phenomenal techniques on how they could prepare themselves to be able to absorb more light without burning. Number 3, taking off sunglasses. And I hope that by now we can understand why sunglasses block all these phenomenal frequencies of light that enter our eyes and stimulate our circadian rhythm, stimulate the blood in our eyes so that we can absorb more of our food. Number 4, opening the windows while working indoors. It's very important so that you get undistorted wavelengths of light. Most of the windows block a lot of the infrared and the UV light. And by slightly opening that window, you'll enable yourself to get undistorted wavelengths of light. And I also invite people to wear the Viva Rays daytime glasses, which I'm gonna talk about later in future slides. Number 5, watching the sunset every evening and enabling the body to receive the right type of information so that it starts slowing down, preparing for a rejuvenative night's sleep. In number 6, blocking all artificial light after the sunset. And I'll talk more about this and how the Viva Rays glasses play a major role in providing you the tool in order to do this. I also want to say that in the course that I mentioned, the electromagnetic diet, I focus so much on teaching people about the whole electromagnetic spectrum, the visible and the invisible. And I teach very simple techniques on how to harness the energy of this electromagnetic natural spectrum in nature so that we can achieve true optimal health. So let's talk about blue light and inflammation. Blue light in nature is very stimulating, just like exercise is. And it increases reactive oxygen species. Now, this is not necessarily something bad, because when it happens moderately and in an imbalanced manner, it triggers the production of antioxidant, it enhances the immune function, and protects the body from disease. However, here's the question for you. What happens if you exercise chronically 24/7 without resting? Most of you will know that you'll end up causing yourself more harm than good, and you're not going to do that. Now, here's the problem. When we are chronically exposing ourselves to artificial blue light, it increases our reactive oxygen species in an abnormal way. And those ROS are meant to be detoxified at night when we sleep. And this detoxification process happens few hours after our eyes receive the signal that there's no blue and green light in the environment. So when we stay exposed to artificial light, we actually lose the ability to detoxify those ROS. And oxidative stress becomes extremely high. And this damages the body's cells, proteins, and DNA, contributing to aging, chronic inflammation, and neurodegenerative diseases. So many people having a conversation about sleep, they think that great sleep happens by chance. And I always tell people, hey, great sleep never happens by chance. It actually happens by design. Sleeping great on a consistent basis and waking up feeling refreshed and energized is something that is governed by law. Now, it is governed by a universal code, which we call circadian rhythm. And circadian, it comes from the Latin word circa and dia, which means approximately a day or 24 hours. And this rhythm literally exists in all animals, plants, and humans. Okay, we all undergo an unescapable daily change in our environment. The day must become night. And in order to adapt to this daily change, we have had to develop an internal clock that controls the timing of our daily functions to an optimal time of the day or the night during the 24-hour cycle. So I'm going to have to skip some of the slides here just because I think we are short on time. So I will move forward on these slides here about circadian rhythm, because I know that most of you are very familiar with this term. And so one of the major problems with circadian rhythm is that we have this suprachiasmatic nucleus in the brain that is responsible for signaling to all of our body when to go to sleep, when to wake up, when to think, when to digest. And this suprachiasmatic nucleus takes light information from sunlight in order to do this. So the problem is that we are drowning this circadian
Did anybody lose Rudy, or is it just me?
for cycle. Okay, we can do everything at the same time. Our body is designed different things at different times, and this is regulated by light through our circadian clock. So turn back from the farm to the city is that my circadian rhythm went from a harmonious and blissful symphony to a dissonant one. And my sleep and wake cycle went out of tune once again. And here's the reason why. Because when you wake up, and the reason we release increases our heart rate, it tenses our muscles so that we can start feeling awake, focused, and alert. And at this particular second, a cellular timer is set that will dictate when another very important hormone called melatonin will be released about 12 to 14 hours from the moment cortisol is released. So here's the thing. Melatonin, the sleep hormone of darkness, is actually produced in the eye in morning sunlight. Morning sunlight provides the energy for the conversion of the amino acid tryptophan in the eye to convert into melatonin. However, the release of melatonin can only happen at night after our eyes perceive the absence of blue and green light. And this means that even if you get your morning sunlight right, if you go in the afternoon and start exposing yourself to the wrong frequencies of light, you're gonna destroy the process of melatonin production. And so many people know melatonin as the sleep hormone, but it's much more than this. In fact, melatonin is the highest antioxidant in nature. Here's Dr. Fritz Hollwich, a German scientist from Germany, who showed us that the stress hormone cortisol was significantly high when sitting under artificial blue light. See, cortisol, not sure. Okay, so this is depleting